Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good afternoon, it's Friday afternoon, it is Easter weekend and you are here on the Locker Room on Independence Live. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. We have a busy show. I am Graham Duffy and we've got a brilliant panel of guests tonight, and I can say that because Michael's not here. Sorry Michael if you're watching me, I'm only joking. So let's start with the main man in the top corner here. It is Mr. Regan Stevenson. Regan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm doing no bad, mate. Thank you for having me on. Not a great few days for Scotland, but I'm sure we'll get into it. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing the football back at the weekend for Celtic, Rangers and everybody else. So it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it, aye.
Exactly. Then we have our resident Motherwell fan. It's the one and only Mr. Stephen Rayside, who's getting more appearances on anything other than, well, me, really. Stephen, how are you doing, mate?
I must be approaching my 50th cap on here at least. No, I'm good, mate. I'm looking forward to the weekend, as always.
Good stuff. And last but not least, and no, it's not because of sports hibs that I've left until last. It's because I've saved the best till last. Apart from you, obviously, I'm just hosting. It is our resident Hybe. It is Mikey. Mikey, how are you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm all right. Happy to be back on again.
Good stuff. So we've got a very busy show. As always, it is the return of the Premier League action. Cannot wait. International football is done until June. But let's start with the national team, because in the last week, Scotland have had 2 friendly games. We'll get to the question that I've posed very shortly. So last Friday, we played Holland and Amsterdam and went down by 4-0. And then on Tuesday, we were back at Hampden where we got beat 1-0 by Northern Ireland. We'll take the games in isolation. Let's start with Holland first, and let's go to Regan first. Regan, that Holland game last week, I was in Liverpool, but I managed to watch the game. I thought for 70 minutes, I thought Scotland were excellent. Dominated possession, had plenty of chances. As my cat walks across the screen, thanks for that, pal. And, you know, I thought Scotland were very good until the last 20 minutes. What was your thoughts on that game last week?
I felt that we actually played well, Graham. I thought we created the best chances in the game. It was just a great goal that they scored just before half time. They kind of knocked out the stuffing out of the team, but then we actually grew into the game. McTominay has a good chance in the second half. Shankland should probably score in the second half as well when he should put that one in the back of the net. But no, I thought Scotland played well. It's a bit of a strange one because, like, if you actually talk to somebody that didn't actually watch the game, you think 4-0 is a bit of doing for Scotland. But I thought we actually played no bad, and I was being pretty positive about that match.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Stephen, because I generally think anyone looking at that Scotland that hadn't watched the game would probably think the same as Regan did, that it was a hammering. But actually, if you watch the game in total, Scotland were excellent. It was just that last 20 minutes that we fell apart a little bit.
I'm going to go one further, right? I'm not saying result here, so people in the comments may get at me. But I think it's the best away performance I've ever seen from Scotland in my lifetime. I think it was that good. You think of the quality of the opposition that we were up against. I thought we absolutely bossed them for 70 minutes. The only thing that we didn't do was put the ball in the net. And I think, to be honest, I know that we're not talking about the Northern Ireland game yet, but I think Lawrence Shankland can count himself very, very unlucky to have been dropped for that after his performance against the Dutch, because I don't think it was just I know he had a couple of chances and missed them, Graham, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at his link-up play, and I'm looking at when we have the ball, how high he stayed, and it occupied the 2 Dutch centre-halves and allowed us to get further forward, and that's why we were so creative. I honestly think that Lawrence Shankland can come away for that 70 minutes performance and be really, really, really proud, but I think the man on the pitch against the Dutch was probably Gilmore. Wow, what a performance. He could have put on a Spain shirt and played like that when they looked at a place. That's how good he was.
Good evening to our Dundee fan, Greg. I hope you're well, mate. Mikey, it is very rare that Scotland go to a place like Amsterdam and take on Holland, and even the Dutch manager talked about how good Scotland were. That was honestly a great performance, and I think 4-0 was very harsh.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I didn't actually watch the game, but I watched the highlights afterwards, and I think that the scoreline kind of wasn't really a true reflection of how we played. I think we had quite a few really good opportunities that we just didn't take. And then the actual quality of the Dutch team kind of came back to bite us. But at the end of the day, like, I've said this multiple times over the last week and a half. It's just friendlies, so the result didn't really matter. It was getting players match fit and everything.
Reagan, I think that Dutch game last week, I don't think I've ever seen Scotland go away from home to a team like Holland and dominate a game as much as they did in the first half. And generally, we could have been a couple of goals up before Holland even got that first goal.
I mean, McTominay's got a great chance as well with the header. And then I think it's Ryan Christie. He's got one of the goalkeeper makes a great save as well. So I think we possibly should have been if we take our chances. But I think it's probably the most. I think we dominated possession. I think we probably looked very confident. See what Stephen was saying there about probably the best performance for Scotland in his lifetime. It's probably mine as well. I mean, we probably talk about the Serbia game in 2020 because of what it meant. But I think in terms of the actual nature of how we played, I think it's a fantastic way for Scotland to play because I think we're going to play similar opposition in the Euros. I mean, for anything that doesn't know, Switzerland and Hungary are playing really well at the moment. So I think these are going to be similar type matches. And don't forget that I'm sure the Hungary beat I'm sure they beat England during the Nations League 4-0.
They did, yeah. Yeah, they did win, yeah.
So I think they'll be very tricky opposition, but I think it'll be the same sort of game. So I think we can take positive from that.
Good evening to Paul Donaldson. Hi all. Scotland were okay for most of the Netherlands game, but the last 20 minutes were poor. Don't like to blame individual players, but things went downhill badly when Tierney was replaced by Suter, which will come out in a second, and good evening to Hasbury Stumble as well. I mean, that's the thing, Stephen. As much as, yes, it's a friendly, and I'll get to the question I'm going to pose in a minute, but the changes didn't really help. Shanklin came off, Adams came on, didn't hold the ball up as well as Shanklin had done, and defensively, we did fall apart when Tierney went off.
You've picked out Tierney going off and you've picked out Shanklin going off. You've missed one. You've missed one that I think it's just why take Billy Gilmore off. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you don't bring Lewis Ferguson on. I'm just saying don't take Billy Gilmore off because I thought Ferguson was good when he came on against Northern Ireland. I thought it was actually one of the only bright sparks in that performance on Tuesday. But for me, changing the back four, the likes of Ralston and Suter coming on with 20 to go, it's like, why? Why change it? I know you're trying to get players game time, but we looked so settled in the game, and the changes just disrupted the whole balance, the balance of the side, and then the Dutch started to overrun us. And see for the second goal, John Suter can see the running. I think it was at Cody Gakpo that scored. John Suter can see him, he's looking straight at him. He's got to get across and he's got to stop that chance from happening. And for there, we kind of just the bottle crashes a wee bit and the snowball rolls down the hill before you know it's 3 and 4. And by the way, it could have been more than 4 with some of the chances they had towards the end. And if we would have come away any more than 4, it would have been an absolute travesty. But no, I agree with Regan in the sense that we're going to play Hungary, going to play Switzerland. They're teams that will come at us more than what, say, Northern Ireland would. And I think that will allow us to use our attributes, which is getting the full-backs high up, the wing-backs high up the pitch, hitting teams in the counter and really causing them problems. So I don't have any issues about going to Germany. I do think, though, that we need, you say only friendlies, I think we need to get a couple of wins in June when we play Gibraltar and Finland. We cannot be going in to Germany. I think the Gibraltar game will take care of itself, but we need a result against Finland just to give us that confidence boost.
If we don't beat Gibraltar, I'm going to start to panic. Mikey, I'm older than everyone on the show, unfortunately, which is a real shame. So I've seen a lot of decent Scotland players in the past, but just how good is Billy Gilmore? Because Reagan's mentioned him there, Stephen mentioned him there. Billy Gilmore in that Holland game was outstanding.
Yeah, I really do rate Billy Gilmore. I think that he's kind of a bit unlucky that we've finally found some good midfielders over the last 5 years, because when I first started watching football in Scotland, our midfield was very, very bad. So as soon as we start improving, we start bringing more and more good midfielders through. And I think that he is definitely one that'll come into the team in the future. And I think against Netherlands, from what I've heard and like online and everything, he was very, very good. But yeah, I think that he's definitely one that I'm looking forward to in the future.
Good evening to Pablo and good evening to Ross, our regular Kelly fan. We're doing well, mate. Hope you're well too, pal. Reagan, as always, after any Scotland defeat, I go on social media, I go on Twitter, and the very first thing I see, and this is going to be a rant, and I don't apologise for it, the very first thing I see is fans of other clubs slating Shankland for that miss. Yes, he should score, of course he could. But you've got to look at his all-round game, right? He's up against one of the best centre-backs in the world in Virgil van Dijk. His link-up play was excellent. His hold-up play was really good. But all anyone talks about is that miss. And I've now seen it as well after the Northern Ireland game to say Shankland's not good enough at this level. For me, it's utter nonsense. What about you, mate?
I think some people just like to overreact on Twitter and get out the frustration and that. But I think overall, Shankland will be in the spaces where you want him to be. So I think he should be the number one striker for the Euros. I know people were saying on different channels about Che Adams and stuff like that, but I think Shankland should be the number one striker for me, Graham. And like I said, like you said there, I think people are just overreacting, and possibly that's to do with Scottish football, because you look at a lot of people, some people just go on and say, oh, Scottish football do good enough, but Shankland at the end of the day is scoring goals every week. And I think if Scotland played the way they did at the Euros and create all the chances, Shankland will take the chances. And I've got full confidence and belief that he will be the main man for Germany.
I'll come on to Northern Ireland game in a minute, but Stephen, that Northern Ireland game, right? Lyndon Dykes had 75 minutes, did nothing. Within a minute of Shankland coming on, he created a chance for himself out of nothing. That's what Shankland does. And there seems to be a thing, especially in Scotland, with rival fans that seem to want players to fail. And I've noticed that a few times on Twitter over the last week or so. It seems that people are desperate for Shankland to fail so they can say he's not proven at this level. And again, like I mentioned to Reagan there, it's absolute nonsense. Why are you wanting a Scotland player to fail? I don't get it.
Well, I didn't get a chance to come back in with Peter Grant the other night. Peter Grant, I was on Go Radio, and Peter Grant said to me that Dykes wasn't good because he didn't hold the ball up. No, he didn't get enough touches of the ball. Well, to me, that's up to him, Graham, because what London's game is bringing other people into play and getting us up the pitch. So if he's not had that many touches of the ball, it's because he's not been holding the ball up well enough. You look at how well Shankland was coming deep, playing the ball out to the fullbacks, or the wing backs, against the Dutch. And I thought that was completely missing. Granted, I think there was a lot of maybe long balls up to Dykes, where Shankland maybe got it more into feet, and I think that's maybe where the likes of the midfield could have done a bit better on Tuesday, was play more forward passes. But for me, he scored a goal against Georgia. He's caused the Dutch all sorts of problems. All right, he missed a great chance. And then he's created 2 chances when he's come on against Northern Ireland. It's a no-brainer for me to start Lawrence Shankland ahead of any other striker that we have. And I feel like people are just nitpicking at Shankland because he plays in Scotland. I really think it's because he plays in Scotland. You take any of those 3 strikers in isolation, Dykes, Adams, Shankland, and you give them that chance 10 times, who do you think would score it most?
Shankland all day long.
So, he's missed once. Does it make him a bad striker? Not a chance.
I mean, Mikey, me and you obviously talk quite a lot, and you're a fair Hibs fan, which is why I like talking to you as well. I mean, you've always said that, Shankland should start. I honestly do not get why fans of other clubs, not you, but fans of other clubs seem desperate for Shankland to fail. And it's almost like that miss against Holland. Fans were waiting for him to miss so they could pick him up on it. For me, he plays for Scotland. You should be backing him. And I don't get why some folk don't do that.
See, I'll tell you the exact reason why from sort of a Hibs perspective. And it's literally just to get back at Hearts fans because we've been so bad behind them this season. The thing is, the Hearts fans and quite a lot of fans of other clubs as well wanted Shankland in. So rival fans will just take it as an opportunity to kind of slate a Hearts player and say, oh, he's not good enough. But in my opinion, he's much better than Shea Adams. And I think if Lyndon Dykes is to be playing, he should be playing behind him. So I think that Lawrence Shankland is the best striker we have. I think it's not a great miss. Obviously it's not going to be great anyway, but it was maybe, I wouldn't say it's a terrible miss because there is still the keeper to beat from there. But the thing is, it's a big chance for him and he's missed it. But I think a lot of people are taking that and comparing it to his entire game. And then, yet again, he came on against Northern Ireland and did more in however long than Lyndon Dykes did the whole game. So I think Scotland fans just need to be a bit more sort of, I know we're going to get onto it, but I think that we're kind of getting a bit too big for our boots where we're trying to get people out of the team when maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
Hashbury stumbled with a couple of points here. With Germany beating Holland, I think the first game of the Euros could start very much like the other night. He also says we need got Shankland as a goal threat. Paul Donaldson says, I think Shankland doesn't help himself much when he winds up fans of other clubs. But this is the point, right? When he plays for Hearts, fine. But see when he pulls that Scotland top on Reagan, surely you back him.
I think you've seen the whole thing with Rangers fans not taking well to Aberdeen players in the Scotland squad. The same thing with Aberdeen fans to Jack as well. I think the whole thing is just a bit of a joke. I mean, you take for instance Graham the booing the other night. I just didn't understand it. The whole place booing. You know what I mean? This is a squad that has got us to back European Championships. I mean, I don't know. I was born in 1998. I've not seen nothing. So I mean, for me, watching Scotland over the past 2 years has been great. I mean, and I just don't understand why people are booing. I really don't. In a friendly game where surely it's got to be let's try new things. I just don't understand why people are booing.
You know you feel old when Reagan says he was born in 1998, which is why I'm not even going to ask Mikey when he was born, because that would just depress me even more. Let's get on to the Northern Ireland game on Tuesday night at Hampden, and we'll get to the booing very, very shortly. But firstly, Stephen, were you surprised that we didn't make too many changes for that game? And the biggest thing as well for me, right, and I mentioned this to Mikey earlier on as well, right? Why on earth would you put 4 goalkeepers in the squad? You only play one of them. Why not, for me, you give 45 minutes to Angus Gunn in the first half against Holland, then Gordon the other half, and then for Northern Ireland game, you put Xander Clark in goal for the first 45 and Liam Kelly for the second. Why only picking one goalkeeper for both those friendly games?
So I would give Angus Gunn 45 minutes against Holland. I would give Xander Clark 45 minutes against Holland, and then I would give Craig Gordon 90 minutes against Northern Ireland. But no, you're right. It's ludicrous. Why do you give 4 goalkeepers in the squad if you don't want to use one? It's mental. I think it was an absolute no-brainer for me on Tuesday night to give Craig Gordon game time, because he's only played 3 games this season, Graham? 3 games he's played?
Yeah, all the cup games, Morton, Airdrie and Spartans.
In the cup, so it's a good chance for him to get another appearance in the Scotland jersey. You could see, no, that you need to see if Craig Gordon's up to it or not, but just give him a chance to pull the jersey on again. But for me, I think we need to be taking him. We have to take Craig Gordon to the Euros. We must. And even if he's not playing, I just think his experience, I've heard that he's really good about the dressing room. That can be so important for the squad. And yeah, it's going to be harsh and probably either Xander Clark or Liam Kelly to miss out. And yeah, Xander Clark is the Hearts number one. I get that, right? But think of the experience internationally that Craig Gordon has. All right, not a lot of it's in international tournaments, but he knows what it's like to play for Scotland. And I think the servant that he's been for the country, he deserves to go to Germany. He deserves for everything that he's done, for all the field qualifications that he's been part of and played brilliant. And by the way, the amount of games that he saved us in, he deserves to be going to Germany and be on that plane for me. And the most disappointing thing for Tuesday night for me as well was just the lack of tempo in the play. I don't know if we maybe 10 games of the season left. I know that there's a lot of players in the squad that have got a lot to play for at club level. Again, I was disagreed with on other shows the other night, but I just think that there's this tentativeness when it comes to the March friendlies. I know I've heard people saying Sir Alex Ferguson hated them. I believe it was Gary Neville come out and said that Sir Alex Ferguson used to pull players out of squads in March because you were going for the week. Even players like John McGinn trying to get Champions League, Lewis Ferguson in the top four with Bologna. It's I just think mentally that there was a lacking a wee bit of edge on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I know you didn't see the game, so I'll keep these questions quite short. But were you surprised that Lawrence Shankland didn't start after his performance against Holland? And also, were you surprised that Lewis Ferguson didn't get a start? He did come on in the end for Andy Robertson, but were you surprised that Lewis Ferguson didn't start?
To answer your first question, yes, I'm surprised that Shankland didn't start because if that was Lyndon Dykes and missed that chance against Netherlands, there's no doubt they would have been in the team again. And for Lewis Ferguson, I'm not hugely surprised because, as I said, our midfield options were very good. It was just good to see him get some game time. But yeah, I think that it's just, if there is one thing that I will, I guess, criticise Steve Clarke for, it's kind of, I don't want to call it favouritism, but I have no doubts that if Shea Adams or Lyndon Dykes missed that chance against the Netherlands, they would have started the next game. And I think Lawrence Shankland's probably the best striker we have anyway.
Paul Donaldson says, quick question for Graham. If Hearts get third place tied up soon, would you be happy to see Craig Gordon get to play more Hearts matches? Yeah, I would. I mean, he'll play the semi-final against Rangers. I hope we get third place wrapped up soon. And I think he probably will start more games. But let's get to the question that I've posed on the headline there, as you can see. Now, after the Northern Ireland game, as Reagan's just mentioned, there was a lot of booing. Now, we have not won in the last 7 games. It's drew 2 and lost 5. We've scored 7. We've conceded 19. But if you look at some of the games we've played Holland, France, Spain, and England. Now, yes, Northern Ireland game wasn't great. But the question I'm posing is, have Scotland fans gone over the top over the friendly games? Because I think they have personally. We have qualified for another Euros, which we've not done for a while. Steve Clarke has now got us to 2 European competitions. I think the reaction on Tuesday was massively over the top for a friendly game. I know, Reagan, you just mentioned that. I mean, have Scotland fans gone too over the top?
I think they have. I mean, I just don't understand it. Like Stephen said, I thought every player was on as if they were just in slow motion mode, like as if they didn't want to get injured for the club. And I think that's understandable, but I think people need to realise as well that these guys have played 60 matches a season. Look at someone like Callum McGregor, who wasn't even in the squad. He was injured, but like there's so many matches where these guys are just getting back to fitness and they're trying to do well for their clubs as well. Because don't forget, these guys don't. I mean, of course they want to play for Scotland every single game, but they also don't want to get injured for very big important matches. And I'm sure if you're like John McGinn, I'm sure he's been in contact with Aston Villa and they've said, right, we've got a big match on Saturday. Can you try and do the best you can tonight? And I'm sure that they speak to Steve Clarke and they do things, because that's one thing I'm going to talk about as well. Was I thought Northern Ireland were very, very aggressive with the tackles.
Really
and like I just don't know. I mean, as far as Northern Ireland, they were talking about Scotland get battered, but Scotland are at the Euros and Northern Ireland even there. So, I mean, good luck with that. But I think sometimes I think sometimes, Graham, people can over-egg because we've not won a friendly. But as I said before, friendlies are supposed to be to try new things, to bed new people in, to experiment before the European Championship. That's what I agree with Stephen. If Craig, if Craig, if Craig's only played 3 games this season, then surely that's the opportunity that you bet him in and say, right, well, Zander Clark's probably going to play the majority of the Hearts games. This is a great opportunity for me to see Craig Gordon in the flesh to make my mind up. But yeah, I would definitely take him to Germany as well.
Pablo, I think in terms of Mark O'Hara, I think he is way down the pecking order in terms of a Scotland place, to be honest.
Doesn't get anywhere near that midfield. Come on. I love Mark O'Hara at Motherwell, but it doesn't get anywhere near it. Sorry.
I mean, Stephen, just in terms of Tuesday, it was a friendly. The reaction was quite surprising, but the biggest thing that I'm really surprised about, and I'll get onto this with Mikey as well in a minute, is the reaction of Scotland fans towards Steve Clarke. Because I've seen a lot of things on social media saying that Steve Clarke should go. Do we know how good we've got it here? He's just got us to another Euros. I mean, why on earth? Yes, it's a poor defeat. I get that, right? But it is a friendly game. Why on earth are you calling for our manager to get sacked after that? It's ridiculous.
Do you know what I think this is coming from? I think this is coming from a section of people who have started following us now that we've got good again. I remember sitting through a 97th minute winner against Liechtenstein. I remember sitting through Scotland 1, Lithuania 1 at home. I remember watching Kazakhstan 3, Scotland 0 on the TV. This man has come into the job, got us from Nation League 3 and Nations League A, above England, by the way. He's got his back-to-back Euro qualifications. And he's got a playoff in the World Cup, and I still believe that we only lost that because I think a lot of our squad were tired. The likes of Andy Robertson, Callum McGregor, they played loads of games that season. I think we tired. I think if that game was played in March, we'd have been at a World Cup. I'm convinced. You just need to look at the game against Republic of Ireland in the Nations League after that. We went in and beat 3-0, tired again. So, because we're on a wee bit of a losing run, you're right, take into account who we played. Georgia away is no easy, by the way. They've just beat Greece. Norway at home's no easy. I know they didn't have Haaland, but these 2 games as well, we'd already qualified. So again, that edge is missing. That edge for your play is missing. And then you've got Holland, you've got England, you've got France, you've got Spain, who I'm sorry, I know that the upturn in form has caused this because people are now expecting us to compete with these teams. We're still a level below that. We're still a level below that. Big time. So it's a huge overreaction. Huge overreaction. And if people would just give themselves a wee bit of realism and think about how far we've come. It's been progression to get to your first major tournament, and I think it was was it 23 years at the time?
Yep.
It's been progression to get to a World Cup playoff, progression to get to Nations League A, and then progression to qualify from a group and not need to go into the back door. So it's been constant progression. Where does he need to complain? It's absolutely ludicrous.
Paul Donaldson says, I left Hampden after 85 minutes, so didn't get a chance to boo at the end. It was a poor performance. Lots of possession, but we created very little and made too many basic mistakes. Mikey, I know you've got a thought on this as well, because you spoke about this, the fact that people were basically wanting Steve Clarke out, which is ridiculous. Are Scotland fans' expectations too high?
I don't think that you can say that, because I think that obviously being a football fan, you've always got to try and expect to do well. However, the problem comes when you're wanting a manager out after losing a few friendlies, a few meaningless games, let's be honest, they'd already qualified. And the last proper game that we really needed to win in that, we did. So I think it's ridiculous overreaction. And I think a lot of it comes from this whole social media thing. Just recently, I've noticed a lot. Like, as soon as it's the same with Shankland. this as soon as someone messes up that's doing well, people are going to turn on them, and we need to be a bit more realistic with not even just our expectations, with the way that we act, because I was saying initially from the second that he qualified us for the Euros, we have to back him, and I've already said if we go and lose the Euros horribly, then a bit of pressure can go on to him because our squad has improved. It's not all down to the manager. A lot of it is down to the improvement of our squad, but a lot of the credit has to go to Steve Clarke as well. But I don't know how you can try and get him out after this long. Like, he's done a very good job, and the thing is, who would you replace him with? That's the question, and I'm pretty sure that 95% of these people have never watched Scotland when they were under Gordon Strachan or Alex McLeish losing 3-0 to Kazakhstan and getting beat by Russia and all that. Like, we need to be a bit more just realistic, and it's not going to do our chances any good if we're turning against our manager and our players before a tournament. And this is exactly what our fans have a go at England for having these expectations and getting the manager out. So, yeah, we're trying to do exactly what England did.
Sorry, I just wanted to say though, if you look at it as well, see under Gordon Strachan at the end and under Alex McLeish, everybody was not wanting to be there. I mean that Stephen will tell you, you'll go to the Scotland games and there was probably 30,000 at the matches, that there was a lot of players not wanting to be there. And then Steve Clarke goes, I mean, I'll take McLean for example. McLean, he hardly ever plays, but he's always there. He's good in the dressing room. Mm-hmm. He scored one of the most important goals. Steve Clarke is made him an integral part of the team. And then you go to some like you guys were saying there about some people's reactions. I mean, these guys are only meeting up not that often for a season, so it's very hard to build that bond. But these guys are enjoying each other's presence every time they go and put on that Scotland jersey. And I think sometimes it's important that I think probably the biggest difference was Steve Clarke, because looking at before that, the majority of the squad is still the same squad, but the players have bought into Steve Clarke's plans and Steve Clarke's ideas and what he's doing. And like I said, a lot of these guys were not wanting to be there. Snodgrass, for example, McCarthy, all these guys were retiring, not wanting to be part of it. But now Steve Clarke's managing to get players. Even if you look at, and I know he didn't eventually come, but Elliot Anderson, Harvey Barnes, he's trying to get all these players in because he's got that Euro success to back up what he's doing with the squad.
Paul Donaldson, that's completely over the top calling for the manager to be sacked, which I think we all agree with. Our players made loads of slack passes in the night and gave the ball away very easily. Can't blame the manager for that, exactly. Remember how Badler and Bertie votes, or didn't get me started on him. And Hashbury, it's the media that builds up expectations and pulls the rugs at the opportunity. Very, very fair point. I've managed to get half an hour talking about 2 Scotland defeats, which is actually very impressive. But let's leave the national stuff just now because Premier League action does resume this weekend. Yeah, dancer! And let's start. I know. Let's start with the game at Pittodrie, where managerless, which just sounds weird just now, Aberdeen take on Ross County at Pittodrie. I'm going to start with you on this one, Stephen. Aberdeen, before the break, beat your team, Motherwell, unfortunately, by 1-0, up against the Ross County side to beat my team, Hearts, unfortunately. But it is now 2 weeks since Neil Warnock left. And at the time when he left, it sounded like Aberdeen knew who they wanted, but they don't have a manager in yet. This has taken far too long. Now, I know that Alan Burrows was on Aberdeen TV yesterday, and he basically said that they are very close to making an appointment, but it's 2 weeks and no manager in yet. It's not great, is it?
It isn't great, but I think as a fan, you can forgive it when the club are coming out and communicating with you. I think when you're not getting that communication, then it can become all the more frustrating because you're like, wait a minute, you said that you would have a manager in, but after the international break or during the international break, there would be somebody permanently in place. So at least Alan Burrows has come out and addressed it. But again, we talk about the Aberdeen model. I just think that they've got Bad
Sorry.
appointment after bad appointment. With the last couple of ones going back as far as Stephen Glass. I know Robson turned it around a bit, but that quickly turned sour. I still think they made a mistake in sacking him, by the way. You look at how Stephen A. Smith managed to turn things around when you were wanting to see Chuck. I just think that when these managers are young, give them time. If you're nowhere near relegation, which by the way Aberdeen weren't at the time, they were kind of just not pushing for the European places as much as they would expect, but they were still kind of a relatively mid-table, I think, when Robson was relieved his duties, and it's been a slide since then. So I think that was a mistake. But I think, do you think maybe, I know you're hosting them, but do you think maybe Aberdeen are overthinking it a wee bit? Because they're so determined to get this appointment right, with being so close to the end of the season. Is there that thing in their mind where they go, oh, we'll put a caretaker in charge again? Because who's going to come to a club, 10 games before the end of the season?
It's fair. They've got a big semi-final to come against Celtic, which Paul Donaldson actually mentioned here. He basically says tomorrow's game is massive for Aberdeen and will define our entire season, which I wouldn't disagree with. I would say more important than the League Cup final or any other matches. It is very difficult. There's been a lot of names mentioned. Neil Lennon's been in the frame. There's the Swedish manager, Jimmy Thielen, I think it is. Mikey, we've talked about this before about Aberdeen. The last few appointments have failed miserably, and now they are taking their time, which is fine. And Alan Burrows mentioned himself that they've got to get this appointment right, and they do. They cannot afford to get this one wrong, given what's happened previously.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, but I think the overall problem is getting rid of Barry Robson in the first place. If you're not going to be prepared to get someone in obviously at the time they probably thought, oh, Neil Warnock will do the job. He's kind of let them down in a sense, but he wasn't doing well enough anyway. But as Stephen said, when Aberdeen sacked Barry Robson, I think they were 7 for 8, and they were quite far above the relegation zone, and they've just made things worse and worse with the recent results. I don't think that they're overthinking it. I think that they need to, because if they get this one wrong, then what state are they going to be in? And bringing in another manager at this point, that would be 4 managers in a season. What is that going to do with the squad? And the problem is, if they go and finish 10 for even 11th, which is looking less likely, but it could still happen. What is going to happen to that squad next season if they end up in the Championship? There'll be nobody that wants to stay.
It's a crazy sentence. Sorry.
And yeah, for a team like Aberdeen, that should never be a question. But it genuinely is. It's ridiculous, and the amount of instability around the club at the moment is the major problem. Because under Barry Robson, I don't care what anyone says, they would be in a much better position than they are now, and there would be no question of relegation, especially when Motherwell, who I know Stephen supports, they went, I think, 15 games out winning, and they are above Aberdeen and still have a small chance at top 6. If Barry Robson was still there, they would be 7th at lowest.
They would be.
Mikey's actually made the point I was going to make as well, Regan. There, right? We know it's the results business. That's fine, but he's just Mikey's just said what I was going to say there. Aberdeen, Motherwell went 15 games without a win. Didn't sack Stuart Kettlewell. Were Aberdeen too quick to pull the trigger on Barry Robson?
Yeah, I think they were. I think social media had a lot to do with it. And I was talking to Aberdeen fans, and they're like, oh, we didn't watch Aberdeen every week. Okay, I'm not, but I'm telling you right now, with the squad that Aberdeen have got, and don't forget, Barry Robson just got sacked after they beat Frankfurt in the Europa Conference League. You know what I mean? They just beat Frankfurt 2-0. Sometimes football fans are a bit too entitled. I get that 3 days after the Frankfurt game, they got beat off Rangers, they weren't happy, another cup final that they've lost. But you need to remember that James Cavaliers' goal scoring record, Scottish football, unbelievable. Sometimes people just need to be realistic. I think it's probably the modern world that wants everybody sacked and wants a brand new day every 2 minutes. But yeah, I think they would be easily top 6, and I think they would certainly be challenged for that 4th European spot. I don't think they'll get through against Celtic, and I know that's the only chance of European football this this season. So I don't know. I mean, Dave Cormack's a funny one for me. He's messed up with too many managers. Then he names the training ground after himself. It's just a strange time for me. Aberdeen. I mean, I appointed Stephen Glass. I mean, Stephen Glass brought some good things. I remember the guy from a lot. I can't remember the American guy that scored a lot of goals for Aberdeen. What was his name during COVID?
He came from America. I don't. Is it Christian Ramirez?
Christian
Yeah.
Ramirez.
That's him.
He scored a lot of goals for them, but I think Aberdeen, the job they've on for the recruitment to appoint a manager is not been very good, and he'll be hoping that he can surely do that pretty soon because Aberdeen are a big club in Scottish football terms.
Paul Donaldson with a couple of points here. If Warnock was still there, would have been looking forward to appoint a manager at the end of the season or just before? Warnock leaving suddenly has exploded to complete inaction by the boards. He also says Warnock should have been sacked in December after the 3-0 home defeat to St Mirren. If he'd been sacked at that point, the caretaker would have had the January window to try and bring a couple of players in. I mean, I suppose it's a fair point, Stephen, and you saw Aberdeen first hand when Motherwell played them a couple of weeks ago. Did you see anything about them that could give Aberdeen fans any encouragement? Obviously, there was a lot of controversy in that game with a handball that was given against Theo Bair that wasn't a handball. The handball that it was Graham Shinney that didn't get given. Did you see anything about Aberdeen that could give any positivity?
I'm going to be honest. It was a really, really stuffy game, and I'm sure that Paul will be the first to agree with me there. And by the way, before I'm going to make this point, Ipswich are 1-0 up against Blackburn. The goalkeeper's went to save it with what looks like my left hand, and it's in the net. He said an absolute howler. But anyway, no, I just, it was really stuffy, Graham. And I think a draw would have been a fair result because I think both teams were off it in that day. But I think the one positive, if you ask me if there's any positives that Aberdeen can take, is the fact that they kept a clean sheet, albeit VAR gave them an assist on that. But they've kept a clean sheet. They've won 1-0. It was probably the kind of a game that they needed when you're on a run like that. Just a scrappy 1-0 to get yourself over the line. But they've got 3 points there. Ross County gave 3 points against Hearts. So it's all well and good getting 3 points against us, but they have to follow it up tomorrow because if they don't, they're right bang in it. Right bang in it if they don't win tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Mikey, let's look at Ross County because obviously they beat Hearts the last game before the international break, and deservedly so. But they are still sitting in a difficult position. They are second bottom. Don Kerry's come in, replacing Derek Adams, which was an absolute disaster. I mean, what have you made of Derek Adams? What have you made of Don Kerry so far? Do you think it's a good appointment for them? And do you think they can go to Pittodrie tomorrow and win that game?
First of all, I think that Don Cowie's actually been all right. I think he's come in. He's I guess steadied the ship that Derek Adams left, which was an absolute mess. So I guess credit to him for kind of turning it around a little bit. And I genuinely think they are 1 point behind St Johnstone now, who look in big trouble again.
They are, yeah.
So yeah, I think that Don Cowie's done all right, and I think he's probably sent Livy down. And I think if they get anything tomorrow, then that is Livy definitely down in my eyes.
I mean, Reagan, Ross Kent is still in that difficult position that I still think they're probably going to finish in that playoff place. But if they were to go to Pittodrie and win tomorrow, that would be a massive win, and it would really pull St Johnstone and Aberdeen into a very dangerous position.
I think if I'm a betting man, I think it'll be between Ross County and St Johnstone for that 11th spot. Yeah, but I mean, if Ross County go to Aberdeen tomorrow and win, then that will just open up a whole host of opportunity for Aberdeen to be in that relegation battle. I mean, Aberdeen fans are wanting to run at Derek McInnes when they were sitting fourth in the table a few seasons ago. So it just shows you how quickly things can change. But no, I mean, in terms of Ross County, I think Mikey's spot on in terms of, I think Don is actually, he's going to Ross County and he's steadied the place in terms of every press conference you're watching with Derek Adams. I think that was putting more pressure onto the players as well in terms of every time they were going out in the park. I'm never going to be able to play football in my life because of my disability, but I'm sure that if a manager was coming out in Lambert and speaking about me every single game, I wouldn't be trying hard for that guy. I mean, I just feel like he's been too open. I mean, if he didn't like Scottish football, then why would he be here in the first place?
I think Graham's gone.
I think Graham's disappeared. So, guys, what do you think then? Score predictions for tomorrow when we get Graham back.
I'll go first. I'll say 2-0 Aberdeen.
I'll go 2-0 Aberdeen.
Right, and obviously we know that. No, there we go. Graham's back. I was going to fill it with another question, but he's back.
Sorry, guys, I had to move room because my internet connections there was a bit dodgy. So, and I was going to do a bit. I was going to go to Hearts Command, but because I know that Reagan's got to go off shortly, I'm going to just touch on Livingston against Celtic just now, which is the Sunday game. I'd normally leave this till last, but because Reagan's here, I want to touch on that before he goes. So the big news that came out yesterday, Reagan, was the fact that Brendan Rodgers has basically had his 1-game ban and 1 game suspended for that Hearts Celtic game, where he basically called the incompetence of the officials into question. So he will be available in the dugout for the Rangers game, but he'll miss the Livingston game. Do you think that's fair?
I don't think it's fair, but I think because he's used the word incompetence, I think that's spot on for him. I mean, because I read a thing, I know they were saying it on different shows that they're not allowed to use the word incompetence, but yeah, I do think he was just being honest about it in terms of that. I thought the refereeing that day from the VAR was totally out of the normal. I mean, you look at the handball. I know me and you debated about the red card at the time, gang. I know me and you debated about it, but
I've said it off all day long, and I'll keep saying that.
I know me and you debated about it, but fair enough. You get your opinion, I've got mine. The referee made his choice. He said yellow card, the referee, and then he was persuaded with a slowed down version of what he's seen. But yeah, I think in terms of, I think there needs to be, okay, Brendan Rodgers made the comments, but there needs to be accountability as well. You know, I know you guys watch a lot of English football as well, but there needs to be accountability in terms of if people like, well, I know I'm going to mention his name, but I'm not on the SFA panel, but I know if people like John Beaton and people like that, if they're going to make such mistakes, there needs to be consequences for these guys, and there needs to be some sort of, okay, well, that handball, surely that's not a handball at any match of football. If it is, then we'll certainly lower the bar. I know if John Beaton watched this, he'll probably say it's something to do with IFAB, but I think anybody that watches football clearly doesn't want to see football played like that. I mean, if that's a penalty, then you'll be getting a lot of penalties through the day, because even if you look at any of the Hearts players, Graham, and even the Hearts management staff, nobody was in any to mind what actually the VAR was checking for. And even Shanklin mentioned it to the radio after the game. He says nobody in the stadium had a clue what was going on. The one thing that I would love to see, but it'll never happen, is the same implementation that they do during the rugby matches, where they show you what has been said. Because for me, it would clear up all this stuff. And I get what that Brendan shouldn't have said it, but I'm glad he's going to be in for the Rangers game. I'm glad he's going to be there.
Paul Donaldson, Jim Goodwin was suspended for 6 matches for saying more or less the same, but I think it was later cut to 2 matches. I mean, Stephen, we know that the one thing that you can never do is you can never call incompetence of officials into question. We can do it because we're a radio show that nobody actually pays any attention to. But if you're a manager, you can't say that.
Yeah, apparently not. We've seen everybody being punished for it left, right, and centre, haven't we? And I do think that the SFA have not wanted to suspend Brendan Rodgers for the Old Firm match because of the can of worms that it would have opened, but they had to be seen to give some sort of punishment. So they've settled on one game, the game against Livingston. Do I think that people should be able to come out and criticise referees? Absolutely. If players can get criticism, if managers can get criticism, I don't believe that referees should be exempt from that criticism. I'm with you, Graham. I do think that Yangs was a sending off. However, I don't think it was a penalty in a million years to Hearts. Never a penalty kick. That's what I would say. So, yeah, referees get a lot wrong. We've discussed that this season. They've had to be seen to be doing something, and they've settled upon the Livingston game.
Mike, I think Stephen makes a very valid point there. I think had they suspended it for the Rangers game, it would have caused a war, basically. The fact he's only suspended for the Livingston game, fine. But do you agree with that punishment?
I think there's two sides to it, because on one hand, the referees are going out of their... Let's be real, they're not... They aren't full-time. Like, they come in and they're volunteers at the end of the day. Like, they come in and they referee the games. But on one extent, you can't just come out and slander referees after every game, because then nobody will want to referee. But on the other hand, you should have the right to be able to question why decisions happen. And that's why I would like to see them come out and actually say if they got something wrong, or at least give reasoning to their decisions.
Yeah.
But my problem comes with the fact that it's setting the precedent that the referees can just do whatever they want and have absolutely no repercussions for getting anything wrong, and just completely protecting the SFA after everything. I do think that the decision for the penalty in the Hearts-Celtic game was wrong. I think for the Celtic winning the penalty as well, that was wrong. But the high foot's a red card all day long. I don't even know why that's still being debated. But yeah, I don't think it's fair to call competence into it, especially if you've got so many people listening to you. But at the same time, you can't just... The referees can't just be let off with everything they do with absolutely no punishment, because, as I said, there's going to be no punishment for them getting anything wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, Reagan, does it now set a precedent, the fact that obviously now if a manager now comes out and calls a referee incompetent, which does happen a few times, but doesn't now set a precedent? Managers are looking at this now going, well, Roger's got a 1 game ban or 1 game suspended, so maybe I can do the same thing. Does that set a dangerous precedent now?
I don't know if it sends a dangerous precedent. I think in terms of Brendan Rodgers, I think he was actually saying on the TV earlier that this is the first game he's ever been banned in his life. I think something like that. I think it's something like that it's not just Celtic here, Graham. It's about Stuart Kelwell last week where Motherwell got robbed as well, and it's like the Ross County penalty against St Mirren that should have been given as well. I mean, the SFA said a couple of months ago, Graham, when I was on the show with you, and they sat and said that they only got four VR calls wrong out of 200. I mean, this was something that was coming out that the SFA themselves saying that somebody from a panel watched these calls and they've only got 4 wrong out of 200 calls.
Graham, I think we need to get T-shirts made of that, because I think we mentioned that in every show, the fact that they've come out with that.
I think we do.
With that start, but it just shows you, Regan, and that's no, like, I'm not having a go at you there, because you're absolutely spot on. It just shows you that every week we're talking about these decisions, every week. And I tell you why I think it's a sending off, Regan. I know you've said it's not right. The Yang one, under the laws, it comes in to endangering an opponent. That's the rule that it will come under, and that's why it's a red, right? Because it's head high. But where I think the problem lies is how the rules are implemented, because there's no consistency. And I think that's why fans get so angry, is because you're seeing the similar types of decisions. I think there was one with Celtic v St Mirren, wasn't there? That was very similar to the one against Hearts.
Yep.
And I think that's where the issue lies is the lack of consistency. If we were getting consistency and we knew what the rules were, then fair play. But it's not. It's the inconsistency that is making it so frustrating. So frustrating.
And I think people are saying about that VAR's making a big difference. I mean, Stephen will tell you that Motherwell last week, if Motherwell win that game, they're 2 points off top six, and now they're looking down below them saying, well, that's not a very good score. But then if VAR then looks at it and goes in their favour, then it can be a totally different match.
I'm going to ask this in a minute, actually. Ross says, good luck for you, Graham, tomorrow. May the best team win. I think we hopefully will. And Paul says, I don't think any punishment for anyone in Scottish football should be changed just because it's one Trudeau firm or other involved. The rules should be applied to the same to everyone, which I do agree with. But here's the question, right? Now, we're going to be doing a VAR show, hopefully soon, with a former referee, hopefully when that gets sorted. Now, the big thing for me about VAR, right, is the fact that, and I mentioned this to Mikey this morning as well, my worry would be, say, obviously Celtic Rangers go for a title, you've got the top six, you've got the potential relegation. What happens in one of these games, maybe even last game of the season, there's a big VAR call that costs a team a title, costs a team top six, costs a team relegation. Then what happens? All you're going to get is, oh, we're sorry, we got it wrong. That's not good enough. You've got to get these big calls right, and there's too many of them. As Reagan's mentioned, as Stephen mentioned there's too many now that are getting called, oh, do you know what, we've only made a few mistakes. No, sorry, that's not good enough.
I'll quickly come in on that one. I think that if you have a technology in front of you, you should not be getting anything wrong, because if you're the referee on field, then fair enough. Making four wrong decisions out of 200 is brilliant. It's almost perfect. But if you've got the technology in front of you that shows you in full HD everything that's happened and you're still getting things wrong, then that is where competence has to be called into question, because you're literally looking at it perfectly. So I think that the fact that VAR's come in and even with VAR, you might get one wrong out of however many. But the problem is, I think there's been more than 4 last season, and there's hundreds this season. I pointed to quite a few examples this morning. I could go through many others that just don't come to mind straight away. And the problem is there's so many wrong decisions when it's probably harder to get it wrong with some of them. Like the one that I've always pointed to is the Ross McCausland dive against Livingston. VAR's looked at that and still upheld the penalty when you could literally take one look at it. I'm not a referee. I've never done anything to do with refereeing. I took a look at it and knew that it was a dive. But these professional referees are looking at it and still giving it as a penalty. And that's basically what I'm mainly worried. That's my main problem with
it. Reagan, on the game itself, taking a Livingston team that look like they're down, they're 10 points behind. I don't see them staying up. You must be pretty confident for Sunday.
Yeah, I think Celtic don't usually travel well to the Tony Macaroni Arena, but yeah, I think it should be pretty straightforward for Celtic, if we're honest. But yeah, Celtic always make it difficult. But I think in terms of what David Martindale's doing, I'm sure he's not going to throw the towel in, so it's still going to be a difficult match for Celtic to be involved in. But I'm looking forward to seeing Rio and seeing Vickers as well, because this has been a while since we've seen these players playing on a regular basis. So if Celtic can get those guys back, then obviously, as well, when you think about it, the big game at Ibrox next week, so they'll be looking forward to that now with all these players being available.
Reagan, before you go, just as well to touch on the fact that news came out earlier on that next season there will be 5% of away fans back at Old Firm derbies. So there'll be 2,500 Rangers fans at Celtic Park and 2,000 Celtic fans at Ibrox. It's a start. It's not brilliant because it's still not the full allocation, but it is a start.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing, Graham. I'm really happy about it. I mean, I don't know why it was brought off at the same time, but if the fans can behave, then it's a great thing. But as we know, sometimes they don't. But I just hope that this can be a good thing for Scottish football, because what I don't want to do good. Like you guys were saying, I don't want it to be every club is making the allocations smaller and smaller because Scottish football should be there for everybody to see. The last thing you want to see is put it on the telly and there's nobody there. You want to see big crowds, and I'm sure like Sky Sports and the people on the radio, I'm sure they've had a word with the SPFL and said this is not the same. You need to change it. And I'm actually, you know, I mean, this is probably one of the first times when I'm going to praise the SPFL and the SFA in terms of it was about time they actually stepped in and made it for 5% because I know that it wasn't a good spectacle just seeing that one side of the fans and then the other side was blocked out because Sky Sports also pay a lot of money and they want to see both set of fans in there.
Stephen, I've said this numerous times. For a derby, especially, you need the away fans there. You need that. You need that rivalry, and I think it is definitely a good start. The fact that they are going to bring fans back.
Yeah, I think it was the wording of the article. The article was about 5%. So I think what they're going to do is make it 2.5 for each stadium because you know what would happen. There would be kind of a worms opened if one side get more than the other. But I'd go one further, Graham. I would like to see that 5% when you're going to places like Celtic Park and Ibrox to be opened up to every team in the league. Now, I know the likes of your Livingstons, your Counties, your St Johnstones wouldn't sell 2,500 tickets, but Hearts would, Aberdeen would, Hibs would. I think Motherwell and Kilmarnock, maybe St Mirren, if they were having good seasons, could get close to 2,000. So you're talking about just making the game a better spectacle, making the game a better watch because I don't know, you've been to Celtic Park and Ibrox yourself, when you go there, it's intimidating. It's really intimidating when there's less than 1,000 of these, I think 800, 950. And that the wee corners that you get, and I just think to give fans more of other clubs more of a chance. I know they'll never do it, but I just think it would be brilliant.
Mikey, I said this before. I'd be gutted if Hibs cut Hearts allocation and vice versa. You need that rivalry. So it is a good start, but they need to get that back to the full allocation to have that proper rivalry back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it just adds something else to the game as well, not just the atmosphere. When you have fans in the stadium backing the away team, it just gives them that boost again. And I think that we actually need to give credit to Celtic from earlier in the season beating Rangers 1-0 with no fans in the ground. I think that gets sort of not spoken about enough. Like that was an incredible achievement. Not winning a game with 0 people in the away end. You've got an entire stadium against you. But I think that if Hibs and Hearts were to get rid of the allocation, it would completely kill the Edinburgh Derby, and that's why I think the Edinburgh Derby this season have been better than both old firms, and that's really saying something because I'm a Hibs fan and we've literally won none of them, and I'm still saying it was a better derby than the old firm. And I think I'd rather go to, even as a neutral, I'd rather be at an Edinburgh Derby than an old firm this season.
Just going back to the VAR conversation, Paul says in England they allow the audio to be released after the game, and there's a VAR show on TNT Sports where they go over some of the decisions that weekend. Should we have that in Scotland? The problem is though, if you actually watch that show, Howard Webb and Michael Owen do that show, and they always just tend to agree with the referee, and I don't agree with that personally. Like I was watching it last week when they talked about that Doku challenge on McAllister against Liverpool.
Don't tell me the defence.
And honestly, they did. It was absolute nonsense. It was absolute nonsense. So the VAR audio actually heard the guy say McAllister and Doku both came in high, which is a lie because McAllister didn't go in high at all. And Howard Webb actually tried to say, I can see why it wasn't given and I can see why it wasn't. It was ridiculous. They just defended the referee. And that's my problem. They would just defend the referees. It's pointless.
You see it with Dermot Gallagher, don't you, when you do it on Sky Sports News on a Monday as well?
It's pointless, mate, honestly. They just defend them.
The referee defence union, that's what it's like.
But getting back to Livy against Celtic, obviously I think we all know that Livy's going down. But the problem I would think, Stephen, is the fact that when Livingston do go down, and I've said this previously, I think they might still got to come back up for a while because the Championship is very difficult to get out of. Falkirk will be in that league next season. Potentially Hamilton to come up through the playoff. I think Livingston could be down there for a while.
You look at, just look at how tight it is just now in the Championship. I think something like 6 points separate Erin 8th from Airdrie and 4th who play each other tonight. That's absolutely ludicrous, and it might even be 6 points separating Inverness and Airdrie. That's how tight it is. But mental, and Livy, as we know, because David Martindale loves to remind us, they don't have the budget to be in the Premier League, and then if that gets cut, they don't then have the fan base to be able to sustain a run in the Championship. You just need to look and see what's happened to Hamilton. Graham, Hamilton went back down. They get a similar fan base to Livy, and it's really difficult for these clubs. I'm just checking at the minute. Yeah, it's 7 points between Inverness in 9th in the playoff and Airdrie in 4th. And there's 3 games still to go. So mathematically, Inverness can still get into the playoffs, but either playoff, that's nuts. That's insane. But no, you look at the teams in there. Let's say Dundee United and they've come up, right? Say it was Dundee United and they've come up, and then Falkirk and Hamilton, and you'd have they two. You would have Partick Thistle, Dunfermline, Airdrie, Inverness, Queen's Park, who've got a good bit of backing behind them now. Scott Brown's there. And then Dougie Imray's done a great job at Morton. It would be... That's why for me... Sorry, I know this is a bit of a long-winded answer, but that's why for me, the Championship's the best league in Scotland. And that's why the games on Friday are so good to watch, because it's so tight. Can you call them?
I've said that before. I mean, Mikey, it is very difficult because every year Livingston basically punch above their weight and they normally stay up. This season it's a case where they are definitely going down. But do you think, and we've talked about this as well previously, do you think it's a case of when Livingston go down, Martindale will stay loyal to Livy, or do you think after they go down he'll think, right, I've done my time, I'm probably going to leave now?
One thing I can definitely assure you, Martindale will not be leaving completely because he's got shares in the club, he does all the scouting, he does multiple jobs at Livy, he has a lot of sort of power in that club, so basically he is basically doing everything. So I think the biggest chance of what would happen if Martindale was to not be manager would be if he was to take more of a role upstairs and do like the finances, the transfer scouting, stuff like that. But I think that Livy, when Livy go down, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for them because all the good players that have got a contract past next season will be going, and a lot of their players are out of contract. So it's a massive rebuild regardless. But yeah, I think that's the problem. And I apologise for the background noise. It's really annoying me as well.
That's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. So, predictions, Livy against Celtic. I'm going to start with Stephen.
Livingston 0, Celtic 4.
Mikey?
Well, I hope Livy win because I'm going to the game, but I think it'll be 1-0 Celtic.
I'm going to go 3-0 Celtic. I just don't see any way Livingston get anything out of this, but you never know. It could happen. Let's now go to the game of the day in Scotland. And no, it is not St Johnstone Dundee, and it's not Rangers Hibs. It is 3rd against 4th at Tynecastle, a game that I will be attending. Hearts against Kilmarnock. Hearts looking to try and wrap up 3rd place. I think it's done already, but if Hearts win, we go 14 points clear. We lost our last game before the break, obviously, by 2-1 against Ross County. Kilmarnock hammered St Mirren, being 2-0 down. This is a tough game, to be honest, Mikey. I'm going to come at you first. I do think Hearts will get a result. We've got Frankie Kent back, Barry Mackay's back in the squad, Noonhoff's back. It's a really difficult game, but Hearts have got a real chance here to really wrap up 3rd place for the win here.
Yeah, they do, and I think that'll be what the motivation is, because if they get 3rd, then it gives chances to the likes of Tagawa even to come in towards the end of the season and pick up some game time. So I think there's a lot of impetus for Hearts to get 3rd wrapped up. but also for Killie, they want to keep that alive. I don't think anyone around Killie really expects them to get third. I don't. But the thing for Killie is they have such a good defence that if they go 1-0 up in the game, then I genuinely don't see how Hearts can win it from that situation. I can see them drawing it, and I'll get onto my prediction in a bit. But I think that Killie's defensive record is really what they're going to be relying on. And I don't know if you've seen their away record this season. It's not very good. I think they picked up something like 7 points or something. But the thing with Killie is, you know what they're going to be. They're going to be very strong defensively, and they don't even have a very clinical striker up top. Like, their top scorer's got 6 goals this season, and apart from that, they're not really picking up goals. They're picking up goals around the team, and that's a good thing for them. But I think the problem is for Killie is their away record, and Hearts seem to be pretty good at home as well. So I think that Hearts have got all the impetus behind them to try and get third wrapped up, but I think Killie will be trying to at least postpone that until they play someone else. But yeah, I think it'll be a very good game.
Ross, the Killie fan, is going as well. Maybe see you there, pal. Pablo says 2-0 Hearts. Stephen, international break is normally quite quiet because not a lot happens. But in the last week or so, Hearts have confirmed the 3 contract signings, which I'm going to get to now, of James Penrice from Livingston. We've also already brought in Jan Danda, but the biggest one for me, I'm sorry to say this, mate, but Blair Spittle is on his way to Tynecastle. You must be gutted.
Oh, mate. Do you remember I sent you a text? Do you remember I sent you a text when you signed Danda? And I said, who would you rather have, Danda or Spittle? He's only went...
No, we've got both. We've got both.
He's only went and signed them both. Listen, Stuart Kettlewell came out and saying in his press conference yesterday that he knows that there's been talks. That's all he said. He's not heard them being signed. But usually when you hear this kind of a thing getting reported, that somebody's got some information and it's a done deal. Huge loss for us. But I don't get too disheartened because I've seen Motherwell continually replace players that have been important to us. Everybody would have said the same about Van Veen last season. I think they've done an okay job of replacing him. Louis Moult was replaced, so Higdon was replaced. But I know they're strikers, but we've always replaced pivotal players for us. So I'm hopeful that we can get it right again. But I think what you do have at Hearts, so you get a bit of a dilemma in your hands now for next season, is how you fit the 2 in the squad. But what you do have is 2 players that will be able to put the ball on the plate for Lawrence Shankland if he's there. And I really strong squad it's looking like for Hearts, because I think that Penrice is a brilliant fullback as well. So now you seem to be doing some really astute business is the word that I'll use. And as for tomorrow, you win, you have got third, that's it. But if you lose, still that one eye over the shoulder.
I mean, Mikey, obviously, I'm a Hearts fan, as everyone watching the show knows. I'm delighted with what we've done so far, bringing in Danda, bringing in Penrice, bringing in Spittle, players that make a lot of sense. And I'm actually pleased that we're kind of doing early business. You know, we're getting these guys tied up already. We've also got the 5-year deal for Kenny Vargas, which I'm really happy about. I mean, I know you're a Hibs fan, but Hearts at the moment are actually doing quite good business so far.
I think they're doing incredible business, and for Motherwell, I think it's quite the opposite, because they've decided that Blair Spittle's gone, so the number 1 replacement they've turned to is Io Obalai, which is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. But yeah, Hearts are building a very, very good squad. I think that I don't know about Jan Danda. I'm not entirely convinced by him, and also I hate him. But with James Penrice and Blair Spittle, they're both very, very good players. But I mean, I don't know about you. I'd actually want to get your opinion on this. But do you think now that Blair Spittle, Jan Danda and James Penrice are in, do you think that means that Alex Cochrane and George Grant will be going?
I wouldn't be concerned about Grant going. I don't think he's done enough. I think he'll probably start tomorrow, but for me, I think he flatters to deceive. Cochrane's a funny one because I know that he's attracting attention from England, but we need another left back anyway, so I'm hoping it's kind of a competition for places. But if Cochrane does go, we've then got a natural replacement in Penrice, who I've always rated, even when he was at Partick Thistle. We've also got Kingsley can play left back, so I'm hoping he doesn't leave. But it is an intriguing one. But I genuinely think Penrith is a really good signing. I'm really pleased with it. If George Grant goes, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I just don't think he's done enough, personally. But I mean, in terms of the game tomorrow, Stephen, we can afford to draw. This is a game Kilmarnock have got to win. If they lose tomorrow, they are 14 points behind, 7 games to go. I think it's done. A win, 8 points. I'm still confident that we're going to get third. But this game tomorrow becomes massive for both teams.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge because we spoke about how big psychology is in football. We've spoken about that a couple of times this season, and I just think that they'll give Kelly a huge boost if they manage to go to Tynecastle and win tomorrow. But if Hearts can get the job done, then you can get the Sun Loungers out and use that as your formation for the rest of the season. I think just play a 4-3-2-1 with everybody in Sun Loungers, but no, a 4-2-3-1. Sorry, but no. Aye, if Hearts win, it's done. But no, I think it's going to be a really intriguing game, mate. I really do. I think it's the two best sides. I know the table doesn't lie outside the Old Firm, and I'm going for goals. I think there's going to be goals. I don't think he's will win, but I don't think he'll be beat either. It's going to be Hearts 2, Kelly 2, if you're asking me.
I mean, Mike, in terms of Kilmarnock, they've had a really good season. They're sitting fourth deservedly so, and I think that's where they'll probably finish. I think Darren McInnes has made some really good signings. And if you go back to the game before the national break, they were 2-0 down against St Mirren, came back and won the game by 5-2. And in a guy like David Watson, they've got a very, very good player in there.
I think we've been having this debate over and over again. David Watson or Lennon Miller. I've always just edged towards David Watson in that aspect. And I think that David Watson's probably the best young player in the league. And I hugely rate him. And based off Hearts transfer business, they seem to be going for every player that I seem to quite like at the moment, apart from Mandanda. So I would not be surprised if they end up getting Danny Armstrong and David Watson signed within the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think that I really hugely rate David Watson, and I think that he is genuinely in the team of the season for me.
Yeah.
We'll also take Malouda, Marcondes. Don't know who else I want, to be honest.
Can I make a point there, Graham?
I don't you go, mate.
And Mikey, you're doing the same as everybody else, so I don't blame you. Everybody's comparing David Watson and Lennon Miller, but for me, they're completely different players.
Mm-hmm.
David Watson's more of a goal threat. He's more of a kind of a number 8, whereas I see Lennon Miller is more of a 6, somebody that can lie deep and just orchestrate the game for there. I mean, there was a pass. I think it was I'm guessing who it was to Loss because I can't remember. I think it was up to Theo, but no, it was Sam Nicholson. He played through Sam Nicholson and he must have zinged this ball about 60 yards and he's put it right on Sam Nicholson's toe. So for me, Watson's kind of a more of a forward-thinking player, whereas Miller could sit deep. So I think if you're looking at a future Scotland squad, you could certainly find place to fit 2 in a minute. So I know it's what happens when young players come through, or when any you see it with Shankland and Majowski, who I think are different strikers as well. People get compared, but for me, you don't need to compare them. Let's just enjoy the both of them because the both of them are absolutely fantastic talents.
I agree with that. A few more comments coming in here. Paul Donaldson says, I'm really worried that Hearts are making so many good signings, which I like to hear. It looks like Hearts might begin to break away from the rest of the teams consistently in the next few seasons. I'd like to see more teams competing for third place, but it looks like Scottish football will become the old firm, then a big gap to Hearts and a big gap to everyone else. Ross, the Kelly fan, says, tomorrow, if Kelly defensive ability, Lewis Mayo is back and Brad Lyons could be available. If Watkins gets in behind, he can cause damage. And if Hearts let Danny Armstrong and Matty Kennedy cross, they'll be in real trouble. But just to bring up the point that Paul Donaldson makes here about Hearts could break away, I would love to see it, Mikey, but I know you're shaking your head there. You don't agree with that.
I have to say, right, Scottish football is very different in the sense that just doesn't happen. The thing is with Scottish football, if we were to take it like that, then we would have expected Aberdeen to be miles ahead in third. Because if you look back 3, 4, 5 years ago, Aberdeen were finishing second or third every season, and then they dropped to fourth for a couple, and now they're wherever they are. They're just dropping further down. The thing with Scottish football is you can set up a team and it can all fall apart within one season. That's just the nature of it. You've got Hibs who are hopefully getting the right backing, hopefully doing well. I will admit that I think the Hearts will finish third next season, but past then, there's absolutely no way to tell because in Scottish football, the budgets are much more similar. And the thing is, even if Hearts build a good squad, you could get somebody like Aberdeen or Hibs who sign a couple of very, very good players that just drives them forward. And the thing is, you've in Scottish football, you always have those games which are shock. You had the Ross County Hearts game a couple of weeks ago, and it's never as simple as it seems in Scottish football because last season I'd say Hearts had the third best squad with ease. Aberdeen had that purple patch. Hibs had a decent squad as well, and it literally just comes down to who gets the results together. So in Scottish football, you can't really set up for 3 years in the future because it just doesn't work, and it will always be the old firm and then a mess up behind that. So yeah, I don't think that third's guaranteed for them anywhere past next season.
I mean, Stephen, if you look at it, right, obviously Hearts will sound well so far. There'll be more players coming in the summer, but you've got to expect Hibs to be better. You have to expect Aberdeen to be better because they can't be any worse. Again, as a Motherwell fan, you'd expect Motherwell to do better. I mean, generally next season, it probably will be Rangers and Celtic run away with it. But in terms of that third place, I would expect other teams to be a lot better next season.
I think that. Sorry, my mum just came in with my dinner there.
All right. Hi, Mum.
So, I think that a good sign for me is getting your business done early. And that's what Hearts have done. It's got their business done early, and I think that it puts pressure on the likes of Aberdeen and Hibs to go out and get good quality signings.
Hi, Mum.
Good quality signings in there. So, no, I forgot the question because she's walked in. That's exactly what's happened. I forgot the question. So was it about you expecting Aberdeen and Hibs to be stronger? Like,
And Motherwell as well.
And Motherwell, I don't know about that, man. I'm just scraping the ginger bottles for their budget right now. But no, you would expect Aberdeen and Hibs to be stronger, especially with Hibs Bournemouth backing that they seem to have behind them. So I think that I would make Hearts favourites. So, and I know it's crazy saying that, but you just need to look at the business they've done. Danda, Spittle, Penrice, they keep Shankland, and they could push Celtic and Rangers. There you go. There's a statement.
Paul says, I don't think Aberdeen will be competitive in Scottish football for at least the next 5 years. Our club is a complete mess and will take many years to rebuild. Do you know what, Paul? I don't actually think you're that bad. It just needs a manager in. You need a proper manager in soon. And the sooner that happens, I mean, you might lose Majolski in the summer, but I still think you'll have a rebuild. Mikey, I don't think Aberdeen will take 5 years to rebuild. I genuinely don't.
I can refer you to one example that would instantly go against that point. Hearts in 2019-20 got relegated from the Premiership with a terrible squad and a terrible manager in Levine, and I wouldn't exactly say a very inspiring manager, being Daniel Stendel. Within a year and a half, they were sitting third in the Scottish Premiership with the third best squad in the country. And I think that is basically all you need to know about that one. I don't think there's really any debate. I don't think that Aberdeen will be up in third in the next sort of couple of years. I don't even think they'll be challenging. I think they'll probably be maybe fifth or sixth. But yet again, you can't predict more than a year in the future in Scottish football because things change so quickly up here, and before you know it, you could be losing. And even for Hearts, they could be losing Shankland next season. We don't know the effect that'll have on the squad. Obviously, they're building a good squad already, but with the team they have this season, with Shankland gone, I calculated it for a video I was doing, and I think that they would be fifth without Shankland, and that's with all the other top scorers gone as well. So yeah, I think that we still need to see how they do without Shankland, but with Aberdeen, they're in a mess at the moment, but it could literally change within a season and a bit. And that Hearts example should be everything you need to know, because that Hearts team was in a much worse position than Aberdeen are now.
No worries, Ross. Enjoy, mate. I'll maybe see you tomorrow, pal. Hearts don't have Dave Cormack, though. So in terms of the Hearts game tomorrow against Kelly, I'm going to start my prediction. I'm going to stick with what I've said already. I'm going to go Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 1. Stephen?
I told you, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 2 is what I'm going for. And going, know what? Kevin Van Veen will get his first goal for Kelly tomorrow. There you go.
Mikey?
6-0 Kelly. No. I'll go with I'll go with a 1-0 draw.
Just as well, because Mikey was about to get banned for life for that comment. So let's now move on to Mikey's team, Hibernian, who take on Rangers at Ibrox tomorrow. Rangers last game before the break, they were beaten by Benfica and knocked out Europe. Hibs beat Livingston 3-0 in one of the easiest games they will ever have. So, have to come to Mikey first on this game. Mikey, your thoughts on this game tomorrow? I know you're not confident.
We're getting battered. Yeah, I don't think there's any debate about that one at all. Yes, we've improved, but yeah, I don't have any faith going into the game, and I cannot see us getting anything out of it. And I think it's just a question of how many, and that is me being as pessimistic as possible to try not to get let down by Hibs yet again. But to be fair, even if I was being optimistic, I don't think we get anything out of this game anyway. But yeah, I can't see us. I think our defence is so bad. Rangers will take advantage of it, and as much as we try and play out, they've got a good defence as well. So yeah, I think that we're probably in for a pretty bad day tomorrow.
Mikey, I'll refer you to a few weeks ago, mate. Motherwell beat Rangers 2-1 at Ibrox. You could do the same thing, mate.
Yeah, but they didn't have Rocky Bashiri at centre back, so that's a definite goal for Rangers in there. But no, I think that there's always the opportunity to get a shock result, but I just genuinely cannot see it happening at all.
In terms of Rangers, obviously, Philip Clement's come in. He's done very well so far. They could potentially go back to the top tomorrow before Celtic take on Livingston tomorrow. I mean, we said it before on the show. Clement, so far, have done quite a decent job at Rangers.
Yeah, he's done all right. I mean, he's taken them from the mess that they were in under Beale and taken them to genuine title. I could genuinely say title favourites at this point, even though they're behind. I think that our best chance of beating Rangers came a couple of weeks ago in the Cup, and through some dodgy refereeing and a pretty poor performance by Hibs, that didn't happen. And now Rangers have kind of picked themselves back up. I know that their last game wasn't exactly ideal for them, but I mean, I don't see any real opportunity for us to win that game. Just personally from my side of things, and I can definitely see Rangers getting. I could see them being 2-0 up at half time and then just kind of cruising the second half. So yeah, I don't have much faith in us.
Stephen, we know football's a very funny game because we went to Ibrox, got hammered 5-0. Motherwell went to Ibrox and won 2-1. Could you give Mikey any confidence that Hibs could go there tomorrow and get any kind of positive result?
Yeah, I can. I think Mikey only needs to look at the performance that they put in. I know before the sending offs against Rangers in the Scottish Cup games, I thought that they looked as if they were going to get back into that match. I think they found the balance between defence and attack. But as a Motherwell fan, I'm praying for an absolute Rangers landslide tomorrow. 5 or 6 would be beautiful to get the goal difference. So I hope that Mikey's called it absolutely spot on.
The thing is,
Mikey.
Sorry, you
go.
All right, okay. With the whole Rangers Hibs thing, I think that in that game we weren't good enough anyway in the 2-0, and the referee's shocking decisions made it even worse. I think that going to Ibrox with the crowd against us, I can see it being quite a hostile atmosphere, as it always seems to be against them. And I've not made it very hidden that I'm not the biggest fan of the Ibrox atmosphere. But yeah, I think that I genuinely, even if I was being optimistic, I couldn't see us winning that game. I couldn't see Motherwell winning either, but the fact that Hearts got beat 5-0, was it an off day for them? Yes. But for Hibs, we've already gone there and got beat 4-0 after a pretty positive result in the derby. And yeah, we came back from 2 down against Hearts. That the sort of, I guess the morale was quite high. We went into Ibrox and got battered 4-0. So with our, I mean, we beat Livy 3-0, but is that even an achievement this season? I can't see us doing anything of note in this game, to be honest. And yeah, I don't have much faith at all.
The one thing I would say, Mikey, you're talking about defensively for Hibs, and I understand what you're saying about guys like Bashiri, but going forward, you've got threats. We've talked about it before. Marcondes, Maluda, Lafondra. You've got Obita at left back. You've got guys that can cause Rangers problems. That's got to give you some kind of confidence tomorrow.
I'm very happy with our attacking options, just on the whole, generally. I think that I don't know why I've got such a lack of optimism. I guess it's just to not get let down in the end. But I genuinely I know the players that we have, and we've been improving, and I've made no mistake in saying that I'm quite happy with how we're doing at the moment. But the thing with Rangers is they're just a different level of team to a Livingston, to a Dundee, to a Ross County. And although those performances were relatively positive, the Ross County game was very poor in the first half. I just think that Rangers, with their squad quality and their threats going forward, I think our defence it's been improving, but it's still very, very shaky, I'd say. I generally just don't see it. And even in a normal Hibs game, we give away 3 or 4 really, really good opportunities. Against teams like Livy and Ross County, that doesn't matter quite as much because they don't have the sort of attacking threat. But if we even give Rangers those opportunities twice a game, they'll beat us 2-0. So we need to be very strong defensively, and I do not have the sort of faith in our players to really do that.
Stephen, I think after this game, it is the Rangers Celtic game. Obviously, Rangers can go top tomorrow if they win. How important do you think it is that Rangers not only win tomorrow, but put a marker down and make a statement tomorrow going to that Celtic game?
I think they'll be looking to do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. If Hibs get their tactics right, with the attacking options they've got, then the Hibs will create chances. So I fancy Hibs getting a couple of chances on the counter. It just depends when they get those chances. 1, do they take them? 2, what's the score in the game if they manage to defend well enough? So Rangers really need to come out the traps tomorrow and score early on, like they did against Hearts. Look what happened there. They scored early against themselves, and then before you know it, you're leaving Ibrox with your tail between your legs. One in the Ibrox is there for everybody. I can say that now that we've done it. He's leaving on the end of a 5-0 defeat. So the first 20 minutes when you go to these places is huge, massive. And it'll tell you everything that you need to know about how the game's going to pan out. So Rangers need to make a quick start. And by the way, that game next week, that's going to be brilliant. I can't wait. I don't know, but as a neutral, I love watching them. Love watching them.
It's a good point that Stephen makes there, Mikey, about the first 20 minutes, because we went to Ibrox for a goal down in a minute and the game plan just goes totally out the window. How important tomorrow is it that, I know you've talked about Bashiri who gives you nightmares, how important do you think it is that Hibs keep it tight early on and try and frustrate that Rangers crowd?
I think it's massive because I think from experience this season, just watching a lot of SPFL games, with Rangers, their crowd's good, like they get up for the game, but I have noticed that after maybe 25-30 minutes, Hibs are bad for it as well. If they're drawing 0-0 to a team like St Johnstone or Dundee or whoever, then the crowd will start to get a bit hostile. The problem with Hibs is I don't have the faith that we'll get through 20 minutes without conceding, and that's just how I feel about this season for Hibs. Even with the likes of Triantis, who we signed in January, Rocky Bashiri's been improving, but I don't see the ability in our defence to keep out Rangers for that long. And I think that with Rangers, as soon as they score a first goal, the crowd gets right behind them, and then it could just become a matter of how many. If we get through the first 20 minutes unscathed and we're 0-0 or even a goal up, then who knows from there. But even if we do go 1 or even 2 goals up, we've seen it before where under Michael Beale's first game, we were 2-0 up and cruising, and then Rangers won 3-2. So I have no faith in beating Rangers until the full-time whistle. And with our I'd say less than adequate defence this season. I don't see much of a chance of us getting anything. But I'd be absolutely buzzing if I was proven wrong with that one.
Stephen, obviously the Rangers game against Dundee was postponed, so they've had a bit longer to kind of rest up. Do you think that postponement has ended up being a good thing or a bad thing for Rangers?
Well, they had a few injuries, didn't they? So maybe they'll look at that. Hopefully, with that and then the international break, they've had plenty of time to just kind of right. Up next, we've got Hibs. So I'm looking at the injury list. They've still got Cortez injured, Danilo and Sima. So there's 3 big players that are still out for them tomorrow. But I think it. Yeah, has it been beneficial? I don't know, because if they played Dundee, they could have been top of the league, and I just think psychologically that advantage of being top, the top of the league kind of takes it. It's not the pressure off, but there's less pressure on you, I think, if you're top than if you're chasing, especially if you're going first, because if you slip up, then Celtic are going to Livingston tomorrow, and you would fancy them to win that. So. It's been beneficial in one sense to answer the question, but I think they would still like psychologically to be at the top.
Mikey, games are running out in terms of that top 6, and if, as you expect, Hibs were to get beat tomorrow and Dundee were to go to Perth and win, you then drop out of the top 6. Are you still confident that Hibs can still get that top 6 with only a couple of games left?
I think that it's going to be difficult, and as I've made I've not made it very secret this season. I'm very disappointed with the position that we're in, because, as I've said this multiple times, I don't think the league this season's been very good in terms of quality. I think that you have Motherwell, who went 15 games without winning, they still technically can get top 6, which I think just highlights how poor it's been. And I think this for Hibs, if this was any other season, Hibs would be 9th or 8th. And with no chance of top 6. So if we were to get top 6 and we mathematically can still finish 3rd, which is ridiculous, it won't happen, obviously, although I'd absolutely love that to happen with all the stuff that's been said about Hibs by Hearts fans this season. We could, a realistic target for Hibs, I think, this season would be 5th. I think that would be, although it's not a great season, I guess I'd take it. The problem comes from whether we can string any performances together. We've picked up since, I'd say, the Celtic game when we got beat 2-1. I think since then we've been sort of up a little bit. But yet again, the next 3 games are massive, because we've got Rangers away, St Johnstone at home and Motherwell away. I think that we'll win 1, lose 1, and in that Motherwell game I can't choose between the 2 of them.
I can tell you we'll beat you.
I wouldn't be surprised if you do, honestly. We're really... It's such a shock to see. It is genuinely, you can get 2 different Hibs teams playing on one day. You can get the first half to come out and do well. So I have the faith still that we'll get top 6. I think if I'm to put any money on it, I think we will, but I would not be very confident in that.
Prediction for tomorrow, Mikey?
3-0.
Stephen?
Rangers 3, Hibs 1.
And I'm going 3-0 as well at Rangers. Let's move on to Stephen's team, Motherwell, who are taking on St Mirren tomorrow. Motherwell, of course, on the back of that 1-0 defeat to Aberdeen. St Mirren coming off the back of that horrendous defeat to Kilmarnock. Again, this is very tough to call. Motherwell could potentially still get top 6, which is mental. Stephen, how are you feeling about tomorrow? And the big question, I suppose, as well, and I know that players are professional, of course they are, but the big question on the back of that pre-contract move to Hearts, will Blair Spittle's head be in it?
Oh, his head will be in it. I've got no... Like, that contract was probably signed weeks ago. It's just been announced now. So, no, I've got no question that his head's in it. I think he's been the best player this season. And hopefully he'll continue to be. What I'm expecting is a reaction from St Mirren, given the second half capitulation against Kelly. So you just need to look at the games between the sides this season, Graham. They've all been really tight. St Mirren won 2 of them. We played them in the cup. They won the one cup game, one league game by the odd goal, and then there was a 0-0 game where we missed a hatful of chances away at St Mirren to win that. So it's been tight between the sides, and I don't think we're out of the top 6. I don't think we're out of the top 6 race yet. Especially if St Johnstone win tomorrow, because if St Johnstone can get a result tomorrow within a point behind Dundee, you would expect Rangers to beat Hibs. We are only 2 goals worse off in the goal difference than Hibs. We would then be 3 points behind them. Still got to play them. So you would imagine if we win and Hibs get beat, we would overtake them in goal difference. A point behind Dundee if St Johnstone win, still to play them and still to play Hibs. I think that if we win tomorrow and St Johnstone win, and assuming Rangers win, I'm going to get very, very excited. There you go.
Mike, this is why I love football, because Stephen has just basically said that they are. I mean, Motherwell have had such a difficult season, 15 games without a win. But as Stephen said rightly there, they could still potentially finish top 6, which is just insane.
I'm hating this season, honestly. Everything. I genuinely
Sounds
think
like
it's
me in December. Sorry.
Hibs have been awful. Hibs have been terrible all season. And as soon as we start picking up, so do all the teams around us, which is just typical. So we had our chances, we blew them. And now that we're taking our chances, all the teams around us are improving as well. Which is just... And the thing is, Hibs could realistically finish 5th or 8th this season. Which is just... I mean, we could go into the split 5th or 8th. Which is even more mental in my opinion. And it's just... I have no faith in any of the 3 teams because I think that Hibs, Dundee and Motherwell. Dundee have the worst... I think Dundee have the worst defence in the league outside of, I think, a couple of teams right down the bottom. And you've got Motherwell who went 15 games without a win, and Hibs who should be comfortably top half, but we're just throwing away games. So, genuinely, for all 3 of those, I think that I would not have much faith in them. For this game coming up, I think the home advantage for Motherwell will play some part. I think that St Mirren will look to kind of bounce back from that terrible defeat to Killie, and Motherwell will obviously look to fight back from their 1-0 loss to Aberdeen. I think that it'll be I actually think there's quite a few goals in this game. I said 2-2 in my prediction, and I'm sticking with that. I think that it really just depends, honestly. There's a lot of things that could go into this game, and I think that Blair Spittle on that point, I don't think his head will be turned at all. We've seen it with Jan Dander, there was no effect on him. And Blair Spittle, he's a professional, so he'll try and do all he can when he's still at the club.
Stephen, we can't talk about Motherwell without talking about Theo Bair. We saw what Kyle Vassell did to St Mirren with that kind of physicality, that pacing behind. Theo Bair is having a fantastic season. He could cause St Mirren a lot of problems tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think there's a big gap potentially for us in midfield tomorrow that I was trying to allude to in my first answer. There's rumours that Lennon Miller's got a hamstring injury, so he maybe no feature, or he might need to come on off the bench. So I think he's just been pivotal to the balance in that midfield. I think one thing that we did against Aberdeen, I know you've asked me about Theo Bair, was we didn't start Davor Dravkovsky, who's been absolutely imperative to our upturn in form as well, I think. So I'd quite like to see him come back into the midfield, because he's one of these players that doesn't do anything fancy, but see second balls, Graham, he'll pick them up. See tackles, he'll make them. And him making those tackles and winning those second balls is allowed Blair Spittle to get on the ball and feed guys like Theo Bair, who you mentioned, who has been an absolute revelation since Mika Bereth left. He's been brilliant. He's just picked up the mantle and says, right, I'll take it. And I think that we put out a video, I believe it's Ross, the analyst, that Theo sits down with the look at strikers that he's similar to physically, with similar attributes, and how he can make runs that will make him a better player. And there was a goal against Aberdeen where he gets a tap in. He kind of feints one way and makes a run into the middle and then has a tap in. He says that that's all done to that analysis and the stuff that they do behind the scenes. So it's something that Motherwell have always done. So I think it was nice to see that video as to how we maybe go about it. I think we've Tony Watt would have bagged his career, but he lives for nights like that he gets in Dundee in the Championship, so fair play to him. But, I mean, Louis Moult was brilliant. I would even say that we got more out of Michael Higdon than what St Mirren ever did when he was at Motherwell. So, no, Theo Bear's another one that we can add to the list. He goes away with Canada, and I believe that they've qualified now. Was it for the CONCACAF or was it for the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So fair play to them. And it's great to see. And I do think that tomorrow will be tight, but I think we'll pip it. I think we'll pip it 2-1.
Mikey, looking at St Mirren, I don't think anyone saw that second half collapsing as Kilmarnock come on. They're still on a good season, sitting fifth. They could still potentially finish fourth. How important do you think it is that they bounce back after that defeat against Kilmarnock? Because, like I said, nobody saw that capitulation coming because they were so comfortable.
I think it's very important that they bounce back, because the problem in Scottish football is that when you lose one game, then it can easily become a habit. And we've seen that with Motherwell. We saw it with Hearts last season when they threw away third. And we've seen it with even Aberdeen last. We even saw it with Aberdeen last season, which you would have liked me to remind you of, when they lost 5-0 to Hearts, 1-0 to Darvel, 6-0 to Hibs. Like these, when you lose a game, it can easily become a trend. And St Mirren will be aiming to get that out of behind them as soon as possible. Even if they don't win the game tomorrow and come back from a couple of goals down, or if they come back from 1-0 down to get a late equaliser, then I think that can just maybe put a little bit of that behind them. What they can't afford to do is to lose, or especially lose by a big margin tomorrow. I don't think they will, but I think if they do, then they could be in some big trouble. And the thing with St Mirren is, I think they've had a very good season, but considering where they were in October, I think they were second at the start of October, or maybe September they were second. To be fifth at this point is still a good season for them, but I think considering how they started, a lot of that has been, I think they've kind of got a bit of a boost from that, and that's where maybe they're not down in that sort of battle with Hibs and Dundee and Motherwell, because I think that their start kind of propped them up a little bit, and that's been a big part of it. I don't think their sort of form has been incredible this year, sort of since the turn of the year. But at the end of the day, I don't think that any St Mirren fan will be raging at finishing fifth this season. But coming into this game tomorrow, it's very, very important that they don't get beat again. But as I said, I don't think they will. I think it'll be quite a close game. But I genuinely don't even think St Mirren are guaranteed to be fifth. They could genuinely drop down from there. So I think that they still do need to keep picking these points up. But at the end of the day, they just can't get beat, and they certainly can't get beat by a big margin, because then getting beat 5-2 and then maybe, say example, 3-0 or 4-1, that could really play on the players' minds, and then the whole sort of thing starts with a bad form. But yeah.
Stephen, I might be wrong, but I think I've got this right. I believe that St Mirren have an ex-Motherwell player in Mark O'Hara in their ranks. Do you rate him?
Aye, they've got more than one ex-Motherwell player in the ranks. I mean, I think it was a point last season where they had. I mean, they've got about 4, I think. So I would no. I really rate Mark O'Hara. I think that until maybe Drafkovsky and Miller came into the midfield, you were looking at it and going, we haven't replaced Mark O'Hara. Mark O'Hara is somebody that I think Graham Alexander drove out of the club. I don't think they got on. And I think Graham Alexander was like a lot of players, by the way. But he's just the work rate that he gets through in the game. He's got great energy, and I think every midfield needs that, doesn't it? It needs that energy. And he's so good. He can come up with a goal quite a lot in him off of the spot, but he can come up with a goal for one player. I believe he used to be a striker back in the day, so he's got a fair crack on him. That sounded like something else, but I meant a fair shot. You know what I meant. But
I know what you meant.
Great player. And something I think we missed for a very, very long time. Somebody at St Mirren to keep a hold of. By the way, I think for the balance of Hearts in midfield, he would be another brilliant signing for us.
Oh, we've got too many now. We're getting far too many. In terms of predictions for tomorrow, Motherwell St Mirren, I know that Mike has just given his. He thinks a draw. Stephen?
Motherwell 2, St Mirren 1.
And I'm kind of going to agree with Paul here. I think it'll be 1-1. Very difficult game to call. But let's go to the final game of the weekend in the Premier League, and it's at McDiarmid Park. St Johnstone currently sitting 10th against Dundee sitting in 7th. Dundee have had a very good season so far. St Johnstone, again, very, very up and down. I mean, the last game, St Johnstone got beat 3-1 by Celtic, and Celtic were very comfortable. Come to you for this one first, Mikey. What's your thoughts on this one tomorrow? St Johnstone against Dundee.
First of all, it's a rubbish rivalry. I don't know why that keeps getting brought up. That it's a rivalry. It's pretty terrible. And I don't see it being a great game either. I actually had somebody tell me about this, and I keep predicting St Johnstone not to score goals, and that's simply because they have Craig Levein as their manager. I don't think he has got any real. The thing is with Craig Levein, he's all right at keeping a team up, but there's no real ambition under him, and I think we kind of have ruled St Johnstone out of the relegation battle for a while, but they are literally 1 point above Ross County, and I think without Mitov in goal, they would be in massive trouble this season. I think they would be comfortably in 11th, maybe even down towards Livy in 12th. But I mean, for St Johnstone, it's not been good enough this season. From the standards that they had a couple of years ago, that is. With the current squad that they have, I don't think it's a very talented squad. I don't think there's many very good players in there. But, I mean, the drop-off they've had has been incredible. And coming into this game tomorrow, although I don't think Dundee will score either, I think it will be a boring 0-0 draw. I definitely don't see it being first on Sports Scene. I can see I just don't think the squad that they have is really what Craig Levein really needs, because what Craig Levein kind of did well at Hearts is had that sort of target man striker in Chickpea. They don't have that currently, so I think he's just a short term sort of fix to try and keep them up. But with St Johnstone this season, they are really not in a good position, and I mean, from this point, I genuinely would not be surprised if they end up getting dragged into the playoff spot, because between them and Ross County, at the moment, if they were to play tomorrow, I think Ross County would win that game.
I mean, Stephen, obviously, I know firsthand about Craig Levein as an ex-Hearts manager. He was there a couple of times, and an ex-player as well. You know what you're going to get with Levein's side. They're not going to be great going forward. They're going to be very defensive-minded. I mean, St Johnstone don't really have a brilliant squad there. I know we've got Alison that comes on the show occasionally. But, I mean, St Johnstone, you know, I think Mikey's right. They could be dragged into that relegation playoff, because for me, they don't have a goal scorer on their team. And that's a big issue. They've got Stevie May, who's decent. They brought in the guy Sidibe. I think the guy Ken Piocco is a decent player, but they don't have a natural finisher in there.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. I think what Craig Levein's teams look to do is they look to defend first, don't they? They defend first and then score second. And as Mikey said, it's all right for keep my team up, but then where is the long term plan beyond that? Because I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, I can only relate it to what I watched under Graham Alexander at Motherwell when it was defending for 80 minutes, attacking for 5, and then the ball was out of play for the rest of it. But no, I don't see any. I'm with Mikey. I don't see any ambition with Craig Levein managing clubs at all. He comes in. There we go. There's Craig Levein, the Sam Allardyce of Scottish football.
Can I quickly come in on that? The one thing that St Johnstone have reminded me of this season is Hamilton under Martin Canning, because they were very, very defensive minded and they weren't really much of an attacking threat. And it's all well and good if they're kept up by it. And for a team like Hamilton, there wasn't really any real ambition other than staying up for them, which is fair enough because they're not exactly a very big club. But for St Johnstone, they are, I'd say they are a Premiership level club. So there should be a bit more ambition there than just staying up in 10th. And I think eventually their luck will run out, especially if they keep Craig Levein next season. But the problem with them is, as you said, Graham, they don't have a striker that can score goals. And that's literally their job. I don't think the one thing I'd say is the squad isn't very talented. I think they're good at just booting the ball, which is sometimes what you need against a Celtic or a Rangers. But when you're playing these games against, say, Dundee and all these other games, I think a lot of that sort of technical ability comes back to bite you because you don't have any of it. So I think with Craig Levein this season, if he keeps them up, fair enough, but he can't stay past the season in my eyes. I don't think he should be there next season. And there's just that thing around them where if it really comes down to it, I think that Ross County are currently better than St Johnstone. And coming into a game against Dundee, I genuinely just don't see where the goals come from. It literally will take a moment of magic from one of their midfielders or maybe a late goal here or there by one of the strikers. I don't see them being a real goal threat in the game, and that's just my opinion on them.
Stephen, in regards to Dundee, they could potentially still finish in the top six. Do you think, obviously, the last game before the international break, they beat Aberdeen 1-0, but then a lot of teams have done that, to be fair. Do you think that Dundee are punched above the weight this season to be sitting where they are?
No, I think they've hit their weight. I think with the players that they've got in the squad, they've hit with about roughly where they should be. I think maybe you would have looked at Dundee before the start of the season and thought they would have been, I think when you see them, the likes of Owen Beck coming in, we didn't know much about him at the start of the season. They managed to get him back. You've got Lyle Cameron and Luke McCowan, who have had really good seasons. And they've got a really good squad. I think for me, what summed it up, when I knew it was the signing of Trevor Carson, I know what you get for Trevor Carson. I've seen Trevor Carson play for Motherwell. I think that he was very unlucky to actually not be the Motherwell goalkeeper any longer. I think it was Gillespie came in at the time and just was outstanding for us. And then we bring in. He obviously wants to go and get first team football, but we lose Gillespie and then for ages we end up wearing Chapman. Anyway, I'm waffling again, but I know Dundee, fantastic, and hopefully they have an absolute nightmare tomorrow. But if they do win, I think it's then between them and Hibs as to who's going to get that top six. I think if Dundee win tomorrow, we are out of the race.
Predictions for St Johnstone Dundee. I'm going to come to Mikey first.
No.
You've got to say that.
That's
Stephen?
not even a joke, by the way.
I know it's not. Stephen?
St Johnstone 1, Dundee 0. Come on, the Saints.
I'm going to go 1-0 Dundee. Very, very tight. Let's, before we leave, talk about the Championship games this weekend. Tonight is Ayr United against Airdrie. Airdrie coming into this on the back of that Challenge Cup victory over TNS. And I've got to say, and I've said this already to Mikey as well, I am delighted that Airdrie won that, because for me, seeing a Welsh team win a Scottish trophy just doesn't sit right with me. So I'm really glad that Airdrie won that.
I understand the sentiment, but you will never see me being delighted that Airdrie win anything. But no, listen, without trying to have a wee joke about it there, I thought that it was a great game, by the way, to watch. I thought it was a really good game to watch. I think, particularly the first half, it was end to end, and the boy is at McStravick.
Yeah.
He looks a player, by the way, doesn't he? He looks really good. He's nippy. He got a low centre of gravity, and I think he had a couple of chances. And before they took his goal, and when he did take it, he took it really well. But it's a huge game tonight for Ayr United. I mean, if they manage to win tonight, then they're right back in with a shout at the playoffs. We spoke about how tight the league is. But no, I'm going to be watching that. I know there's a lot of Championship football on in England as it is Good Friday, but no, my eyes will be on that, and I'm really looking forward to it. No VAR, Friday night game, bring it on. Here we go.
Exactly. The rest of the games in the Championship this weekend, tomorrow, are both against Dunfermline, Morton against Queen's Park, Partick against Inverness. But the game of the day, Mikey, is at Tannadice, where the top two clash. Dundee United against Wraith Rovers. Dundee United 1 point ahead of Wraith, but Wraith have a game in hand. This is huge tomorrow, mate.
And it shouldn't be, because I think that Dundee United should be way out in front with the squad that they have. I've said this before. I think they'll win the league based on squad depth, but they should have won the league by a lot more than they will do, in my eyes, because I think it's fair to say that's a Premiership squad with a Championship manager. And it's so weird because I really used to rate Jim Goodwin, but ever since the wheels came off at Aberdeen, he was so poor at Dundee United last season. When obviously they went down, I don't think he really did anything to the squad. And then this season, with the best squad in the Championship hands down, I'd say they've really struggled. And I think a lot of the credit has to go to Rafe Rovers as well for the job they've done. But yeah, I'm really disappointed with Dundee United. And for the score prediction, I will go with 2-1 Dundee United.
Stephen, score predictions for United race game tomorrow?
I think the wheels are going to fall off Dundee United. I'm going to go for Rafe to beat them 2-0 tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going 1-0. Just before we finish, just a quick shout out to Falkirk, who tomorrow are taking 2,000 fans to Montrose, where they will wrap up the title with a win. I mean, Mikey, what a season they've had. Unbeaten in the league, comfortably 17 points ahead of Hamilton. They have been outstanding this season.
They've been brilliant, and I think it's been incredible to see because I think it was in January or December, Hamilton were above them, and now there's a 17-point gap. I mean, what a season Falkirk have had, and going into the Championship next season, I would not be surprised if they go and get promoted again.
Absolutely. Well, we have run out of time on the show tonight. We have gone over our 2 hours, but I'm hosting. Who cares? It's not like I can get fired. So thank you, as always, to my guest tonight, Regan Stevenson, who had to leave us early to go and get his dinner, probably a Chinese. And I'm hungry now. I wish I hadn't said that. Thank you, as always, to my good friend Stephen and to my even bigger friend Mikey. Even as a Hibs fan, he's actually all right. I believe, will be back on Sunday. I think it's me again. But you know what? Who knows? Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great Easter weekend. Enjoy your football, whatever game you're going to. But mainly for me, come on the Jambos. Let's get third wrapped up. Catch you later, folks.